Hi everyone, and welcome to our second video. This is Andrey from Prodigal Soul TV, which is our new YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about something very important, something that I think will form the base of many further conversations down the line. And this topic is what depersonalization derealization disorder actually is. But before we go on, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a licensed therapist even. So all this content that I'm talking about here, all these ideas, they are based on my research, my personal experience as somebody who recovered fully from depersonalization 8 years ago. So it took me a long time to get all these ideas, kind of materialize them and get them to the point where I can actually talk about them and make sense. So, but having said this, I'm not a doctor. So if you guys are having an emergency or really suffering the exacerbation of symptoms, I would really advise seeing a therapist or seeing a doctor. And this is a new channel, and this is my first time doing a channel, so I was told that I should ask everyone to like and subscribe. So once that's done, thank you very much. We can go ahead. So what is depersonalization disorder? How is it understood currently? Well, the answer to our question is it is not. It's been recognized as a disorder for about 15 years now, or maybe even a little more, but still nobody can really say exactly what it is. There's a bunch of symptoms that we're all familiar with, and of course there is the disorder of the sympathetic nervous system, which of course causes fight or flight, and of course that's what gives us anxiety and fear and that sort of thing. But really, it's hard to say. If you go to most psychologists today, they're just gonna jumble it up. There's a bunch of symptoms, and really that's it. So it's still a very, very, very early stages of any sort of doctor understanding what the hell's going on. And what are the recognized causes of depersonalization derealization? Well, that could be traumatic events. That could be somebody, for example, a child who is faced with a very, very, very traumatic situation, who basically derealizes in order not to cause himself or herself trauma. Of course, anxiety attacks, especially drug-induced anxiety attacks, are the major cause. But did you also know that certain meditations can also cause DPDR disorder? Sorry for my speech today. Well, yes, they can. And today this is something that I want to talk about because it kind of explains everything else that I want to discuss. So there's different types of meditations. There's different ways to meditate, right? Meditation is a very blanket term, and it doesn't really mean much in the modern world because, you know, meditation to relax or meditation for enlightenment can be described, you know, in similar terms. So this is not really what I'm talking about. But there is a type of meditation that's called heart focus meditations, right? And these are the meditations, for example, certain Vipassana types, where we would pick an object of meditation, for example, the breath, or a certain point in the body, tip of the nose, or this point right here, or it could even be, you know, some sort of a blood vessel going up, you know, once we get really good. But anyways, we would pick this object and we would focus on it and nothing else. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to do. It takes years of practice to really get anywhere with this kind of meditation. But a lot of people do this, you know. There's a lot of 10-day retreats. The Genki Vipassana program is quite popular. So a lot of people report a so-called dark night of the soul practicing this type of meditation. And this basically refers to all sorts of various issues. Again, it's a blanket term, but a lot of times the symptoms coincide almost precisely with traditional symptoms of depersonalization, derealization. So yeah, person becomes defocused, detached, feels like living in a dream, existential thoughts, fear of going crazy, this really overactive sympathetic nervous system, and all these things that come as a result, right? So yeah, so why is it happening, and what is the connection between this meditation-based depersonalization and all the other ones, right? The anxiety attack, or too much pot, or a bad trip on mushrooms, kind of depersonalization. Well, I believe the answer to that is our idea of the self and focusing, right? So what happens is what happens when we're on drugs, right? When marijuana, especially, is that we tend to get tunnel vision with our senses, right? If we want to eat something and we get the munchies or whatever, and we start eating something, and it's like there's nothing else exists. It's only this food, the ice cream that exists, and that's why it can be so enjoyable sometimes to do things on marijuana, right? Because for those of us with ADD or ADHD, it could also be quite helpful, because everything else kind of falls away and we just are left with this experience of this one thing. And it could be a very nice thing, but also can be a very dangerous thing when something goes wrong, right? So bad trip, freaking out, paranoia, all these things come because we tend to see one thing, and other aspects of our psyche that are normally there to balance everything out are not there because we're getting this tunnel vision. So when we have an anxiety attack, maybe if we were sober, there would be other aspects of our mind that would balance out this part of the mind that is freaking out, that is having an anxiety attack. But because of the drugs in our system, we're not able to fully utilize them. And so there's nothing really to stop the anxiety attack from propagating fully to other parts of the nervous system. Well, this can happen with with drug-induced depersonalization, but with meditation, the same thing happens, but on purpose and over a period of time. So instead of having tunnel vision because of drugs, meditators have tunnel vision because that's the nature of the meditation. And then what happens is they're over-focusing on this one little thing, and they're focusing on the breath, for instance. And then thoughts start coming up. Emotions that are negative start coming up. All these things that is normal, to have all these things come up all the time, constantly. That's the nature of our minds. But with these hard focus meditations, there is a tendency to push all of them away with force, and over time that can also create a rift, just like drug-induced depersonalization. So that's why I believe symptoms are a little bit, well, they're almost exactly the same, right? Because the battle ensues between one part of the psyche that's maybe experiencing something negative, or in the case of the meditators, something that they think should not be there. And then the other part that is being freaked out, or that is being averse to the other part, they're at a battle. So that causes a rift. It causes a rift between different parts of the psyche. And the energy of anxiety, or the energy of fear, during a panic attack, is so hard. It's such a strong energy that we can actually cause this rift to be quite big. And of course, in meditation, we are doing this because we think that that's the way forward, that's the way to enlightenment. So yeah, the process is different, but the result is the same. There is a rift in the sense of self. And of course, during a trauma-induced depersonalization, same thing happens, but with regards to whatever is going on. So if a child's psyche or it could be an adult also, is not able to accept the things that are currently happening, again, the rift is created in different parts of our psyche that is experiencing different things. So yeah, so the self no longer functions as it used to, right? Because now it's not connected. It's not a whole self. And all the symptoms that we get, like for example stress and anxiety, and something is wrong, this fear of something is off, and everything subsequent, it comes from this, well, something is wrong, because there's not a single self now there's two parts that are not friends with each other, or more parts. And of course that can manifest in all sorts of different ways, and of course it creates this stress, it creates this anxiety, and we don't know what to do. Thus this fight or flight response. So the next thing that happens is existential thoughts, right? And so this is kind of one of those things that originally got me thinking in terms of, okay, well, what else is going on there, right? Why does everybody have existential thoughts? Why are we all thinking about our minds and God and nature of the universe and nature of reality and that sort of things? And well, that becomes apparent because suddenly the identification and the self is extremely transparent. And if any of you guys have looked into Buddhism or Hinduism or any other kind of meditation, enlightenment based religions, you will see that the nature of the self plays an integral part of it, right? At the core of the teaching is identification. So what all these religions, or what all these techniques are trying to do, is to transcend the self, to realize, to make us see that we are not the self, right? There's actually something. The self is an idea. It's a combination of our patterns, of our likes and dislikes, of our traumas, of our past experiences, and that jumble of identifications we generally call the self. And so what we try to do in meditation is we try to transcend this feeling of self, right? We try to transcend it in such a way that we still have something operational, but at the same time we see the deeper nature of things, right? This is the essence of a term called non-duality, right? Everything is dual, but not really. The reality exists. There's something beyond the reality exists. God exists. The universe exists. But it doesn't mean that one of these things is not real. It doesn't mean that reality is fake. Even if it is a simulation or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's not real practically. But anyways, that's a topic for another conversation. But what happens in depersonalization is that we take one step towards seeing that. But we take a very hard step. We take a step from a healthy functioning of the self and our identification with it into, well, suddenly there's a big hole in the concept of the self. And from here, all these problems stem. And yeah, of course, there's symptoms, and there's all the stress that comes with it. But ultimately, I think the disorder can be thought of as simple as this. Are we, do you want to try to get back to what things were normal before, to the old identification with the self? Or is there a way to actually continue transcending the self and healing it in this way? So while it is possible to see and to go back to the way things were, there's always going to be this part that's always going to be wondering, what if, right? But the other way, and this is what happened with me, is arguably more difficult. It is more challenging, it's more life-changing, but that is a deeper way to go about it, because it brings about a transformative spiritual experience as to and seeing the nature of reality. So all of the aspects of the selves are actually just as, well, just as unreal or just as made up as any other ones. But in order to see that, we need to take a leap of faith. We need to jump. We need to plunge ourselves into this new paradigm. And so this is what I want to focus on, or one of the things I want to focus on in this channel is I want to get people to understand that depersonalization can be thought as a gateway into spiritual evolution. Right? It's not just something that, well, it's a disorder, it's a disease. I think there's much more benefit into treating it as an opportunity, into seeing the nature of reality as it is, into experiencing this body, this mind, whatever, as what it really is, realizing the impermanence of all things, and then making peace with all of that. And there is profound transformation in that. And so this is what I'm going to be talking about. This is what I'm going to be talking about, and this is what I want to help people with. Of course, it's very important to manage the symptoms, because if we're stuck in this terrible place, you know, we can't take leaps forward with inspiration and with hope. But so some symptoms need to be managed first, especially the hardcore ones, right? But once that's done, the focus should then shift on, okay, how do we transcend this thing? And this is what I want to talk to you guys about. This is what I'm going to continue making videos about. And yeah, this is, let's see where I can get you on this journey. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. It turned out to be a video much longer than I anticipated. Let me know what you think about this. If you agree, if you disagree, if you feel strongly about this, I would like to hear it. And if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and comment below. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.